You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. Here once again this week. Doug's with me, kind of ghost-like in spirit. He's not with me in video form, but I'm here with you today in video form. So if you want to watch, you can see that, I guess, on Facebook or YouTube. Doug is still...
I'm a shadow.
He's a superhero, and so he has this secret identity that he has to protect.
That's right. I only exist in the minds of the public.
You're me with a voice modulation device.
That's right. I'm your alter ego.
Just me talking to myself every week. That's kind of how it feels sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
Dim-witted, sarcastic alter ego.
I actually think of myself that way. That's funny that you think of yourself that way.
Yes.
I think of you as like the smart one who knows the details. And I'm like the half-assed kind of rolling in with partial information and feelings.
I wanted you to
sarcasm.
Come. It's better when people realize that stuff on their own. You don't want to tell that to them.
Right. We don't want to reveal what we think about ourselves. You make up your own mind.
That's right. But no, I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you in person here. You got a nice little office there.
Yeah, this is actually...
Why is the door like hanging against a wall?
That door is just a door. It's actually from France. It's not a door to anything. It's like a decorative door. And when I met Lucia's dad, that's how I refer to him. My baby daddy.
Baby daddy, I mean.
When I met Lucia's dad, he had just built a French-inspired multi-mixed-use condo building. And he had a bunch of French doors in the building. And then he had this one that he just really didn't have a use for. And he liked it. It's got etched glass on the front. And I mean, he got these doors in France. And he loves it. And we've hauled it around.
So now when you move, you have to just literally move a door?
Fuck. I have to move this door every time. And it's not like we move once every 5 or 6 or 7 years or something. We move at least once a year. We've moved at least once a year in the time that I've known him. And one of those years we moved 3 times. So it's like...
Door's been through hell.
On average, we move once a year in the last decade. That's how much I've moved.
Yeah.
Now we have moved here and I told him, I said, I'm done. This is 5 years. Forget it. I don't care if Antifa is marching down the street. This is our house. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to just get lots of guns and we're going to make a last stand here because Sunny doesn't want to move that door ever again.
Well, you have a fake door. You can maybe fake out Antifa with it.
Oh, good idea. I should put that door down at the street and act like if they open it, they're in the house, but they're not.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
So no, it's nice to see you. I don't think I participated in your other video one, so I'm sorry. Right. I'm going to have videos soon, I think. I have to solve a couple problems.
Yeah, some technical problems.
That involves
some
wires.
Superhero problems.
That's right.
And then Doug will be on, and you can see him in the flesh. So obviously the big news today is the debate, and we're going to get into that. And I think I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'm going to start by just saying, because Doug told me to say this, that I'm hoping I can hold 2 thoughts together. I don't know. Here's the Pred Report. Are we ready for the Pred Report? Tell your friend that we need a new intro.
Pred Report.
Pred Report intro.
Nick, if you're listening,
theory.
We need a Pred drop.
We have Royal Watch. I need a Pred Report, although hopefully I won't need that much longer, but there's this weird phenomenon where you go into the hospital, which I did a month ago, and they pump you full of steroids, and there are all these side effects to steroids, which include swollen face and not just face. you actually, this thing, and I'm sure I've said this before, this thing turns you into an ogre. It's like a Shrekification, except for the green skin. But some people actually, I don't get this, thank God. Some people get acne and hair on their face. I get the full face, and you get like actually the same thing in your upper back, like a freaking hunchback. You get
I have all those things,
swelling.
and I'm not on Pred.
Well, I can't help with that. Then I don't even know what to say. And then you get a swollen belly. So you walk around looking like this kind of weirdo creature. But it doesn't start when you're on the high doses. It starts as you're tapering. So it seems like I go lower and I should be feeling better. And instead I'm feeling, this last week has been so hard, and I'm at about half the dose I was a month ago. I should be feeling better, and I'm feeling like my head is a water balloon. I feel like I can't see straight. I can't, foggy headedness, mood issues. All of it is kind of worse at this lower dose. I don't know why, but I'm in a prednisone support group on Facebook because God help me.
I thought a lot of that was just being part of being a woman, like an aging woman.
What?
Because most
bloated face.
Well, just
mood problems,
like fog, mood. I mean, every woman I know is kind of.
Hey, I'm not aging. What are you talking about?
Sorry, I meant someone in constant stasis. So, I mean, most women I know are sort of like this. I don't
bloated and angry.
Bloated, angry.
Actually, I'm not dealing with anger so much as like just emotional intensity. I'm just everything, whether it's, a commercial or, the kind of thing that women have when they have PMS where they cry at a commercial. That's me, only like it's times 10, where I'm bawling at a commercial. I'm like, like just like tears streaming down my face. Everything upsets
My Pillow
me.
guy upsets you.
I could literally cry from that commercial if I framed it in the right way in my head. That's how on the edge I am constantly.
Phil.
If I was just like, oh my God, he started a business, he was a drug addict, and then he like, right. I'm like literally getting choked up talking about.
Now he has Egyptian cotton from Giza.
Dude, I heard that, and I've never bought his pillows, but I am in the market for sheets right now. And I'm like, should I try it?
That's right.
Should I try it? Because this dude is like on my side.
He is. You got to support this guy. So on a scale of 1 to 10, then your Pred thing is what, like an 8 right now?
I'm at a fucking 10. Pardon my French.
10?
I'm at a 10. I'm at a 10 right now. I don't think like I'm a rage monster right now, but in terms of just my feeling of misery, I'm at a 10. I have a headache every day. My face is so bloated. I feel like I'm being choked. I feel like I have a hand around my neck, choking my glands are sore. It's insane. It feels crappy. But worse maybe than that is the foggy brain. And so we'll see how I do in this show, because I'm going to try to explain myself and express myself. Thank God you're here, Doug, because you will do a better job of expressing myself with that voice modulator thing. So I think
I'll translate. This is what Sunny.
This is what Sunny means.
But I have a confession too, which is that when you're in level 10, it does make it a little bit nervous to be the sidekick here, because I have a feeling you're going to rage at me. I have to sack up a little bit here and just deal.
No, I'm not in rage mode. I'm in like I'm more like in a brain fog mode. It's just really hard for me to think straight.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I think the anger is higher at the higher doses.
I consider you to be a hero for being here right now. Under all these.
Thank you.
Not really, but.
Okay.
No, I mean, you're going on TV here, and you're, come on.
I am. I decided.
Give yourself some credit.
I decided that. I mean, I was keeping myself off video for so long because I just don't feel good about my face.
But we love your face.
And then like I get down to a dose where I look like where I feel like I look like myself, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I see myself. And even if pretty, not whatever, even with no makeup, it's like I'd rather just have a face that I feel is mine than this weird person. I know people just are looking at me and going, Sunny, you don't look that different, but to me, I do. Anyway, I decided that I just can't, like, it's been so many years, and at some point you just have to like just do what you do anyway. And I've also been inspired, honestly, by people on the internet who are in the same boat as me, and they're putting themselves out there. Like I'm in this Pred support group.
Dude, have you seen Sticks? These are not pretty people. The guy
on
YouTube? No, the guy.
Oh.
I mean, it's not like this is a gallery.
It's not a popularity contest. It's not a beauty contest. But I also have the mental issue with this, which makes like, am I even making sense? Mm-hmm. And that is probably the hardest. And also, as you know, to be funny, you actually have to be on point mentally. You actually have to be able to make kind of fast, witty integrations. And it is really hard for me to, one thing I'm finding difficult with politics right now is my usual coping mechanism for crappy things in life is humor. And I'm struggling to be funny myself and to think of the funny thing about things. And as a result of that, I'm not coping as well. I'm feeling like I need to shut it out because it's a little too stressful. Whereas what I used to do was take it all in and just make jokes, which made it totally tolerable, more than tolerable. It made it fun, even as the world is crumbling around you,
No more arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, we're in a state, man. So this debate, like, to me, it just reflects America. I turned it on and it was hard to watch. It was so stressful and difficult. And the first thing was, it was just so combative, and nobody was getting any real point out ever. It was just blah, 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 bicker, interrupt. Everybody was defensive, and including the freaking moderator, Chris Wallace. What a dink.
Horrible.
And I've heard people say there has never been a biased moderator since Candy Crowley, and that is true. He was as bad as, Megyn Kelly with her, weird stuff too, but at least she was sort of balanced.
Yeah.
She was definitely going after Trump, but she was balanced. And here it was so softball to Biden, antagonism to Trump, and he would give his opinion in the questions. Yeah. So they were leading questions like, these white supremacists at Charlottesville, do you support them? and that doesn't allow for the right-sided opinion, which is there were actually other people there too. And that was the whole thing all along, and that's everything that Trump ever said. And we all know it. Chris Wallace apparently is pretending like he doesn't know it. And there were just a lot of leading questions like that where he offered his opinion in the question and the opinion was hostile to him, to Trump. And he never did that to Biden. Everything he did to Biden was respectful. And I don't know, I just thought that was shameful. And that's the Fox debate.
Mm-hmm.
That's supposedly our side's debate.
Not with Chris Wallace.
I'm so sick of these people. I would rather, the whole Joe Rogan thing was supposedly a joke, but that would be so much more real and so much better.
Yeah, for
than
sure.
what we saw last night. The way these debates are, like, Trump shouldn't even do them, nor should Biden. They're ridiculous the way they're set up. They're antagonistic. They don't allow people to form full thoughts. It's terrible. People make a lot of gaffes in them. And then the media just picks it apart. Both sides just pick apart the gaffes, and it's just like silly. Why are we all here?
It's a microcosm of our society and the entire environment we're in, though, isn't it? Just
totally
bickering, no real substance. Just how does it look? How does it appear with a biased media?
Yeah.
Moderating the thing. So it was just, I don't know what the point was.
Yeah, there's no point to it except, like, I don't think it persuades anybody, although I watched a little bit of Scott Adams this morning, who is a leftist. I mean, he's a Democrat. He's a socialist, sort of like socialism light, like American socialism. And he said Trump lost his vote last night because he couldn't condemn white supremacy, like out of hand.
Come on.
And I'm just like, all right, Scott. Like,
Adams
whatever.
said that?
Yeah, he did. But he said it's not like he couldn't earn it back. I think Scott's just making a point that when, and the truth is, in a performance or persuasion way, and that was what Scott was saying, was he had personally put so much of his own life and capital on the line by supporting Trump and saying over and over that, backing him up on that Charlottesville quote and trying to explain to people that he's not a racist and he didn't say this stuff and there is no white supremacy boogeyman, and that's true. And so Scott's like, I've put myself on the line, and Trump can't even just outright say, yeah, white supremacy would be racist. I'm against that. Like, why can't he just bring that home? And the fact that and it's not that Scott thinks he's a racist or like for white supremacy, but the fact that he couldn't nail that really bothered him. He felt unsupported and left out, hanging to dry, because Trump screwed up that moment. And Trump's performance, I thought, was bad. Like, he didn't really score a lot of points against Biden, but of course he was dealing with a hostile debate environment. I don't know. I didn't really, I wasn't sitting there cheering Trump either. Like, that's kind of what I was expecting to experience, where I would actually get to see my fighter fighting back against the media and Biden and the left. And his performance wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. He didn't do a good job.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's what most people I know had the same reaction to it. They were disappointed. And, I didn't expect much, though. I guess I don't expect much. I mean, I really look at this as I guess from a policy, like if you gave, these two are kind of the same person in many ways politically. I mean, if you gave them 10 policies and just asked each of them, what do they think? I bet they'd agree on most of it. My fear is more the
Biden and Trump, or the Democrats behind Biden and Trump, because
I think Biden, left to his own devices, is a pretty conservative Democrat.
Yeah, he's probably like a Clintonian.
Yeah, he's like a Clinton, and so is Trump. I mean, Trump is
Hillary,
sort of a 90s Democrat.
Bill Clintonian, right?
Yeah, right. And so I don't really fear Joe Biden, the man. What I fear is his administration and the people around him and his chief of staff and all the people.
And the fact that he's senile, so they're the ones who are going to be really running the show.
So that really heightens the effect of the other people around him. So I didn't expect much from a policy standpoint, because for the most part, Trump isn't that articulate when it comes to, specific policies or anything like that. And I'd probably disagree with them a lot on some of that stuff. I think the major
like
issue,
healthcare and things like that.
Yeah, I totally disagree with him. And, he's more of a Democrat, a middle of the road around that kind of stuff. I mean, the thing that I wanted to see more would be the pushback against, in the cultural war sense,
right?
In terms of
the racism, the BLM, I think he tried on the critical race theory thing, but again, it just wasn't as strong as it could have been. Like, for example, one thing he said is he was like, certain people are not allowed to have any status. White people? Like, is there some reason you can't just say that? Does that make you a white supremacist if you say that people shouldn't be racist against white people either? And he didn't come straight out and say white people. He's like, certain people, certain groups. Right. And I thought that was super cowardly, or maybe he's been coached to not say that, because if you say the word white, that's all people hear, is that you're like a freaking white supremacist for defending white people. But that's what we've come to love about Trump, is that he says the stuff everybody's thinking but won't say.
And this is where you probably would want, a Ted Cruz or a Tucker Carlson in a debate format like this, where they could really articulate the position that you espouse. And Trump is never going to do that. I don't think he ever has. I think we're just left with, hey, you know, we've got these two choices. Which one represents you the most? And, you know, what's the biggest danger to the country right now, which is this leftist revolution that's taking place, and what's a bulwark against it? And that's Trump. So the only thing I mean, this didn't change my mind. I can't, because none of those things changed for me, but the only way to look at it really is, how is he influencing, I guess, undecideds, or people? Are there people in the middle, I guess, that are undecided? And from that standpoint, you think that he may have lost some ground? That's what the prediction markets are saying. You know, Trump's down.
They're saying he lost some ground last night.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but I don't have my thumb on that market. I think that is who in the world, these people on the fence at this point. I don't know who you are. And so I'm just not in touch with that. It seems like everyone I know appears to have picked a side. What I have to say, you know, the way I look at it is, somebody said, it was Steve Deace, who's like a conservative commentary guy that I used to follow in the primaries, because he's from Iowa. He's sort of like a radio star there, and he's kind of the Iowa guy. Very conservative, very religious conservative dude. He hated Trump. Like, he was a never Trumper. He's, you know, because Trump was so icky and awful in the primaries, and he had no record. And he's come around just like me in the same sort of way, where, okay, the record and the performance I'm actually kind of happy with. And I've always liked Trump pushing back on PC stuff, but I've never liked the way he gets dragged into these silly sort of tit for tat things and bizarre just insults.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that stuff kind of off-putting. But he said that Trump's performance in this debate reminded him of why he didn't like Trump.
Yeah.
However, he's still a Trumper. He's still like on board, but he's just like, you know, it was just like awful. And I kind of felt the same way. But my take on why I am so far away from voting for Democrats. I'm so 1,000 times away from the middle. I'm so firmly in the camp of the Republicans this election, because I see the Democrats as a literal, clear and present danger to the Republic immediately. Not 10 years from now, like, I see that as today. And living in California, I don't think it's clearer. It gets much clearer when you live in California, because this state is run exclusively by Democrats. I suppose if you lived in Chicago, you might feel the same way. There's a level of corruption and just, we don't care about you. You think these Democrats will get into office and sort of continue this we care about people stuff that they pretend to have nationally and probably in other states. But when you live in a state where they literally don't have to care about the voter and the constituency here, because it's Dem on it's Dem versus Dem in every election. And so it just literally comes down to who does the oligarchs support, where they give their money to that person, and that person is able to run ads and vilify the other person and buy votes and whatever other ballot harvesting machine they have here, the literal fraud, the paying for votes that we're now seeing in Minneapolis, right? The Illinois machine. Whoever gets that money is the one who wins. So it's a political, behind the scenes cigar smoking game in California here. And we can see it because the way that the politicians treat their people is with contempt, disrespect. They swear at them. Like, you just can't even believe what you see sometimes. How does this person get away with talking to people like this? Don't they vote her out? Why don't they vote her out? Because it's corrupt. Because it's rigged. And so if the Democrats, the most important question asked at that debate last night of Biden was this thing about packing the court and the filibuster.
Yep.
Because if they pack the court, they don't have to care what you think ever again. And I don't mean Republicans, I mean Libertarians, Democrats. They will start treating everybody like crap, like any South American freaking socialist dictator. That is the kind of leadership we'll have. They don't care about the people. They're not going to even treat you with basic respect or even lie to you and pretend like they care about you like they do today. They will just start, if you just follow California politics for 2 weeks, follow some of these local state politicians, like this AB5 thing where they destroyed the gig economy. And by that means anybody who wants to work as an independent person is now at risk of not being able to work. I mean, that's like the American way, right? You hang your shingle out, you sell your services, whatever it is, you're good at something, you just start doing it for people. You don't want to be an employee. You just want to do it. You are trying to build a fan base. Maybe you're a musician or an artist. Well, an artist might be different, but certain kinds of artists, you can't do that job anymore in California. And all of these people from both sides of the aisles is like huge nonpartisan groundswell of people going, oh no, stop this, please. It hurts us. It's hurting us. And they're just like, F you. They're literally saying that on Twitter. I don't care. We don't care. They don't have to care. And the woman who spearheaded that thing, the union wrote that bill and she pushed it through and everybody voted for it and signed, and the governor signed it. They will do it again in a heartbeat. They will not change it. They don't care. They treat everybody like crap. And that's how it is when the Democrats take over. They cheat and they will just win forever after that. And they will start treating people like crap and not care about the people at all.
It's like the Democratic cities. I mean, those are the
like Chicago.
models.
It's the same way. How do you get
Chicago,
out of that?
Baltimore, Detroit, everywhere.
Yeah, except a literal revolution where the people rise up, burn it down, and throw the people out. That's what you'd have to do in Chicago.
You can't get rid of them. I mean, they have a corrupt political machine.
That's right.
That will never go away. And
That's
once
right.
they do, you have Chicago.
It has to be blood in the streets to get rid of them, which
and they want to create 2 new states now too. Not only just so that it's the packing the court, and then if they get rid of the filibuster, it would enable them to create 2 new states, Puerto Rico and DC, which would have 2 more senators each, Democrats. So they'd have an undefeatable majority in the Senate, and they would run the Supreme Court. So like you said, I mean, America would become Baltimore or Chicago or
That's
California. Right. That's what they want.
And we're watching anywhere where they have this sort of super majority control. And the way they achieved that is also the playbook. It's with immigration. It's with election laws that allow them to do ballot harvesting and things like that, and allow them to commit fraud. And they know that our side doesn't commit fraud. They know that we're the good guys. And we this side, our side, we actually love the system and we love America. We love our checks and balances. And so we don't abuse it. They hate it. And they're explicit about that. They don't want American freedom. They don't want our Constitution. They don't want our checks and balances. They want socialism. They want equity forced down your throats. They want to force you to be good. They want to have universal health care. They want to run your health care. And that's what they want. They're very clear about this, and they're the only ones out there committing fraud for that reason, because they by any means necessary, because they have no respect for our system, our laws, and our way of government.
It's like the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan said, democracy is like a train. When you get to a certain station, you get out. Which is how they see the process. They use the process for their ends, and when they get a certain amount of power, it's over.
And our resistance is always lawful. We don't cheat our way to success. And I don't want us to either, because I don't want to be in a group of people that don't respect the system, the American way of life. And however, we have to stop them from being able to get away with this stuff. But this is why Soros put AGs into the different states as well, He's also been involved in secretaries of state that run the elections. And they do this because they know they're going to commit fraud and then they want to get away with it. And our GOP is so weak. There's such a bunch of pussies. They're not fighting any of this. And as a result, slowly over time, we're getting to where we are today, which is just a huge amount of fraud is happening. We all know it. The ballot harvesting, is happening. The absentee ballot problem that we're now seeing report after report after report of how that isn't going to work, and it's going to cause us to doubt our election. So I guess what I'm saying is I would vote for a Republican. As you said, I think last week, if Trump were in a wheelchair drooling, we would still vote for him because, dudes, the alternative right now is literally the end of the republic. It is a fast train to the stop of socialism and dictatorship. And if you think, oh, that's like an exaggeration, but we've seen it in our country. We're already looking at examples of that in California and Chicago, Baltimore, as you said, right? We can see the playbook that they've already caused around it within our own country. It's the same playbook, and they're trying to do that on a national level. And it's why Joe Biden didn't say that he wouldn't do the filibuster, wouldn't wreck the filibuster or pack the court, because that is part of their strategy. That is what they will do. And, AOC wants to radicalize people. She's a South American Chavista. She wants everybody to be radicalized. They all support this violence. They've all, in one way or another, supported the violence and the riots that have been going on in this country. Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old boy who was out there protecting some guy's freaking used car dealership, who was attacked by 3 white guys and shot them. And maybe, okay, let's say he's even guilty. They're calling him a white supremacist.
Why?
Like, for what? For either shooting or defending himself against a bunch of white guys? But that's what the left is painting him as now. This is a clear divide to me. And while Trump is not always, the perfect guy, and like you said, we don't agree with him on policy, especially for me, like I'm waiting for the right to do something about healthcare. What a mess. And I don't think he's handled the coronavirus thing well. And I don't know why we're still waiting for indictments. I don't know why, I feel like in some cases he's not wielding his power enough. Why is Fauci still in his job? His corruption is so obvious. Why hasn't that message been put out there well enough and that guy got fired,
Well, I think what this points to as well, though, is that whether Trump wins or not, our side has a lot of work to do, because we have to completely reform our leadership. The passivity that we've seen even under Trump is really disheartening, but it's the only thing we've got. It's all
we've got.
And
it's all we've got right now.
If we wake up and even if he wins, the left is not going to stop. The logic of we're in the middle of a revolution. I mean, there's half the country right now. They've achieved a critical mass of people that hate the country and hate you and want to kill you. I mean, this is not
kill you. How weird is that? But it is true. This group out there, I mean, that's what they're doing. I feel like, I think, like, why is it that we have such a hard time believing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, people think, oh, that's a crazy statement. They don't really want to kill me.
Keep this in mind. I saw a tweet by a woman, and it said, I saw a young boy with a MAGA hat, and I literally wanted to see him burn alive. That was her tweet. I mean, this is the kind of, and we're seeing this kind of violence everywhere. I mean, this is real. And it may not be, 50% of the population, but is it 10, 20, 30? I mean, it's significant. It's a critical mass of people where there's no going back. So we're in the midst of a revolution. perpetrated by this
and we
oligarchy.
Either put it down. It's a communist revolution. Communism is an oligarchy. It's not a equality movement.
No, it's not the proletariat rising up to reform the decadent upper class.
This isn't
it's
a bottom down. This isn't a bottom up revolution.
Top-down.
This is a top down revolution, scooping up some bottom feeders to be there. And I think you and I are both referring to an article that we both read this week. No, that wasn't Codavia. Okay, was that Codavia? Did he say that? Yeah,
that was Angelo Codavia.
Okay, there's another article too. That one, Codavia has a great article in City Journal. Can't remember the name right now. Let me share my screen real quick.
Revolution 2020. You're probably talking about that article about that used the Russian Revolution as an analogy?
Yes.
That was really good too. That was excellent. You sent that one.
Tell people about this one because let me share my screen for just a second. I guess I have this Zero Hedge article here, but okay, this article is called Suicide of the Liberals, and it's by Gary Saul Morson, and it's in this publication called First Things, which I've never heard of. I will put a link in the description of this and Codavia's piece because they're both kind of must reads right now if you want to get an idea of what's going on here. But if you read this Suicide of the Liberals, he's just talking about what happened in Russia in 1900 and 1917, and he uses primary sources and quotes, and you will read this stuff and go, oh my God, that is exactly what is happening right now.
Yep.
It will freak you out.
It's frightening.
So
there's a top-down revolution of this oligarchy, which is not, remember the old left was the workers rising up against the decadent upper class. Now it's the media and the academics. They are the upper class, and they're executing a revolution against the deplorables, the people that they see as unrefined, as immoral, as enjoying a life of ease and comfort, sort of like decadent people.
Middle class, working class.
And they don't feel that they're listening to the dictates of the upper class, that they have too much freedom. And they, as progressive central planners, they need to control them. And so they hate the fact that we value independence and patriotism and family. They want to quash that. And now with the critical race theory and identity politics and indoctrination of generations of people here, you've got critical mass of people that see the country as irredeemable, as beyond the pale, and they want to end it. And we've got our work cut out for us. I mean, if Trump loses, obviously we've got a big problem, but even if he wins, I think we have just as much work to do because we need brand new leadership, people that recognize this, that can articulate this philosophical division and come out on the right side of it and defend us. And, short of that, I think there's going to be, there is going to be violence. And I think people are going to retreat to red states. Our side will retreat to red states. And I don't know, there will be confrontations and, I think this is just the beginning, I guess is what I'm saying. And we have a lot.
Yeah, this is the beginning. Things are going to get worse regardless of who wins. I hope Trump wins in a landslide, just so that we don't have the whole election integrity question. But even if we don't, there's still going to be people that are really mad that he got reelected, and they're mad at us. They're not mad at, they're taking their anger out of Trump and his administration. But obviously they want, like you said, I see a kid in a red hat and I want him to burn.
They fear you.
It's the voters that the deplorables, quote unquote, that they really do hate. And you are the only thing in the way of them manifesting their vision of morality onto the world. And that's the nature of these people, is that they want to force people to do things their way. And they think they are arbiters of good. And they're being led by this oligarch that's just about power, obviously. But it's like, you know, when the Russians revolted, at least you could say about them, well, they were fighting a monarchy and some pretty crappy stuff and some pretty bad treatment. So you can see why they would rise up and fight that. Here you have people fighting freedom, like literally freedom. Screw you. I don't want freedom.
That's right.
And so it really is the people who want to run things. So these communists, this communist oligarchy, the party favorites want to run things. They will do it by any means necessary. They don't care about America or the system. And we are in a cultural situation which is kind of bizarre. And I guess it's proof that politics is downstream of culture in the sense that our only power and voice is in politics. We don't have any power in media. We don't have any power in Silicon Valley. We don't have any power in universities, entertainment. We are surrounded by leftism. Elementary schools now, you know, it's everywhere. It's at your workplace. It's in your corporation where they're giving money to BLM. They're firing people who don't toe the line, the multiculturalism line, the identity politics line. You have to keep your views to yourself, even though you're half the population. You are problematic and you have to shut up at work because you have no voice. And I think Trump is, I mean, as flawed as he is the only voice on the right. And his administration and the people who are writing his great speeches and things like that. And
the administration, it's the group. And, you know, something that Coda Villa had said that really struck me was that, and the reason I say this is a beginning and why we have so much work to do is the logic of the progressive position, which is that, you know, Americans are immoral, racist savages that need to be controlled, that have too much freedom. That logic, he called it inherently insatiable because they see themselves as superior. You know, there's no change or demand or level of humiliation that will satisfy them. I mean, if you kowtow to them, and we were seeing this everywhere, right? We started with the Confederate statues, and now we're at Washington and Lincoln, and now we're getting rid of every aspect of American history, including the most innocuous things you could ever imagine. And it's because there's no amount of humiliation or superiority or dominance that will satisfy that addiction for dominance and control that they have. And so they will keep going. And as they achieve more power and as the right acquiesces on more and more things, it'll just escalate their demands. And like you said, you know, it'll embolden them once they get burrowed in politically through fraud and corruption into a political environment. There's no getting rid of them. They have no, you know, the ends justifies the means to the left. So, you know, this is turning the country into a banana republic where we're going to have violent socialist dictators in control of every aspect of your life.
Well, that's the thing with this election. Things have gone too far. And with this election, even if the Republicans were to take back Congress, I don't trust Mitch freaking McConnell. Like, that guy's not on my side. This old Republican guard is not good enough. They are in the same party as the Democrats, which is why we're in this situation we're in. I mean, we keep voting for these people, or other people kept voting for those people. People like us, you know, who want more freedom and want to preserve the American system. You vote in a Mitch McConnell and you expect him to repeal Obamacare like you wanted, and he doesn't do it because it's not in his interest to do it. He's part of the oligarchy. And he's just there to give kind of a sheen of, yeah, you have somebody here. You have somebody here. Don't get too riled up. But at some point we got too riled up and we voted for Trump. And they have gone after his entire administration, and you think about what happened to General Flynn, how would Trump's first term have been different or better if someone like Flynn were still there? You know, they made Sessions recuse himself and turn himself into a big pussy. How would it have been different if he hadn't recused himself? If Rod Rosenstein hadn't been in charge of the Department of Justice during the Mueller investigation, the fraudulent Mueller investigation, the witch hunt, the literal witch hunt. I don't know if you saw this, just as an aside. Maybe I'll make this aside in a second. But if we lose the presidency, we lose our one voice. And not only that, I mean, honestly, I think if we lost that, I think, yeah, we're not exactly the kind of people that take up arms and revolt. We like our system and we like law and order, as you said. But when a people get crushed and ground down and, you know, at some point they will rise up and resist that. I don't think we're at that point yet. And I think that what would happen is they would take over. They'll start passing all this stuff. They'll pass all this election stuff. They'll pass AB5, this anti-gig economy thing nationally, which will destroy more small businesses like they've done with lockdowns. And they'll pass all the ballot harvesting. They'll make that national. They'll outlaw voter ID. They'll pack the court. They'll get 2 more new states in that support them in the Senate. It's going to be a barrage of taking over permanently.
Well, they'll control the deep state too.
And then they're going to try to take your guns away. Yeah, they control the deep state, the media, the universities, Hollywood, everything. This is it, you guys. So I don't care if Trump is sucked at this debate or that he doesn't agree with me about healthcare right now, even though that is like such a big issue for me personally. It just doesn't matter. I mean, we're literally facing the end of our lives, our American system. And did you see, Doug, that they declassified some information that said that the Russians, they'd intercepted some Russian intelligence that Hillary had been planning this to try to pin Trump to Russians.
Yes.
As a campaign strategy to distract people from her server issues. And
yeah, in fact, I watched Comey's live testimony this morning in the Senate.
Oh, did you? How did that go?
Oh my God, I just want to punch Jim Comey. He is the most.
How is he not in
smug,
prison?
Sanctimonious MFer.
What does he have on the world that he thinks he's going to get away with this? Why is this happening?
It's unbelievable. I mean, and the outline of the charges is presented by Graham and Cruz and others, Mike Lee, is so damaging and so horrifying. You know, this corruption of the FISA process and the fact that they weaponized, you know, political opposition research that was paid for by Hillary and used disinformation from an agent that was known by the FBI to be a Russian agent. The subsource
let me just back up for a second.
I mean, this
new information is that the CIA knew that this was a Hillary plan and briefed Obama on that plan before the election. Okay, so before the election, the Obama administration, the CIA, the FBI, presumably all of these people knew what was happening, and they still then used that information to spy on the Trump campaign, to spy on Trump, to go after Flynn. All of this is like proof of a total coup or an attempted, coup, or an attempt to delegitimize a president, an attempt to impeach him, get him out of office. That's a coup, right?
Yep.
And it comes from the White House and the deep state, the intelligence community. I don't understand why these people are still walking around unarrested. I really don't. Comey, people like that.
Well, I think
at minimum, Comey, who presided over an FBI that lied to FISA, that went after Flynn the way they did.
Right. That's right. And, so far they've gotten one indictment against a lawyer, Comey's lawyer, who literally changed the wording of an email to claim that Carter Page, because Carter Page had been a source to intelligence services, and he changed an email saying, no, he's never been a source. So they got one guy and that's it. And, what are we waiting for here? And here's the thing, if Trump loses, this is all going away. We'll never hear from it again. Right. And all the same players will still be in place. And, God only knows, this is what came to light when Trump won. Imagine what would have happened if he had lost. I mean, we can't even get indictments or get rid of these people or even fire them. When Trump's the president and
he's the president, he's supposedly in charge of the Justice Department. And yet it's been over a year and we don't have a single real indictment of anybody in power who masterminded this shit, who masterminded a coup against the American voter.
And what's ironic is that here we have the left, they're not attacking the powerful. I mean, here we have like a coup against the president. You've got the media, you've got big tech, all these people threatening liberty, and they're not attacking them. They're attacking small business, and they're attacking us. They're attacking anyone who's rebellious against them, anyone who doesn't signify acquiescence to their ideology. The man on the street, they're punching people in the street. They're burning down small businesses. These are the people they're going after. I find that amazing. And here we have evidence of massive state corruption, nefarious attempts to unseat a president by the most powerful intelligence service in the world. This used to be and this is why it exposes the left as being such frauds, is remember when they were the ones who were worried about the FBI and the CIA and the intelligence services, and they were the ones who always expressed concern with civil liberties, and
they make movies about Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah,
what heroes
glorified,
they
yeah,
are.
and that was because they weren't in power.
Right.
And now that they've seized control and they're in power, who are they going after? Now that they control the levers of technology, the big corporations, academia, even the deep state, they're turning that power now on who? The people that oppose them. Because that's all they were ever after. They were never advocates of civil liberties or free speech or anything of that. That was a means to an end.
Well, and that's what I'm saying out here in California. As soon as they actually get absolute power, which they have out here, the only check on their power is internal power struggles between them. That's the only check on their power. And they treat people like dirt. I mean, just look at their tweets when they're tweeting back to their constituency. They're rude and nasty. And they're like that stereotypical blue-haired leftist, with the nose ring and that just hates people, who just wants to be mean and just has a chip on their shoulder and is basking in their little fiefdom power.
They're they're the combination of the IRS and the post office. And, they're unaccountable bureaucrats with a chip on their shoulder that hate America. And what do? What can you do? Leave? I mean, I think that's what this is going towards, is a divorce, because now that they've got critical mass of people that are unchangeable and are religiously set in a mindset that's horrifyingly violent, all we can do is separate. And I don't know how that plays out because we're all intermingled. So,
that's the thing. We don't have the ease of the geography of the North-South separation. When you read about past revolutions, whether it was Roman or French or Russian, it's almost like the same thing happens where people fled the cities and they went out into the country and they bought ranches, and people with means set themselves up in kind of estates. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Like Joe Rogan leaves LA and buys a ranch, and everybody's homesteading and everybody's growing crops and shit and buying guns. And guess what happens to your estate? It gets burned to the ground and you get executed. Like that, because you're out there by your freaking self. You think you're safe. You're not to a big mob that comes for you. And that is what happened in the past, in history. I don't think, we can't leave. Like, we have to fight. I don't know what to do. I see it so clearly. It's like one of these weird things where you see the train wreck and what do? I mean, like, do you start advocating for actual violence? When somebody shared a video, and I shared it to some friends on Facebook, it's actually a video out of Britain, and there's this white dude, kind of a big guy, standing in front of his house, and what looks to be some immigrant guy, maybe an African or something. And the guy's talking tough, and he's getting in his face, and he keeps getting in his face, and he like makes a fist, and he's like talking back, and the guy is putting his hand out. The big white guy is putting his hand out, saying, "Don't, like back off." He's got his hand out extended to keep the guy like at arm's length, and the guy keeps pushing against that boundary, and makes two fists, and the white guy just decks him before he has a chance to even like lift up an arm. And to me, that's the metaphor for where we're at. Like, only we're not decking the guy. The guy, they're in our face, they're in our space, they're threatening us, they're boisterous. We know where this is going. We know the next thing is the arms coming up in the fist. And we're just still standing here because like we don't want to hit first, kind of thing. But we are being threatened. They're already in our space. Like, I don't know legally, when somebody, these diners that sit at tables and people come and harass them and get in their face and shout in their face, raise your fists, silence is violence. And they're screaming at this woman, and the white woman is like leaning back in her chair like this. If she were to punch one of them, I think that she would actually be let off for self-defense, because I think if you get in somebody's face and scream at them, that's actually already assault. I'm pretty sure. And I don't know for sure. Maybe some of our listeners,
particularly with a mob in place, but it all depends on the DA. In a Democratic city, she'd probably get arrested. I'm
saying in rational, objective law, like what is the state at which you can say, I'm under assault, I'm going to actually use violence now, and it's morally and legally appropriate. And I feel that we're almost there. I mean, these riots are certainly, I would be okay with every single person blocking a road being run over by a car. I cannot have any sympathy for the people I've seen. It's hard to watch. I don't like it when human beings get hurt. But if you're in the street blocking people and blocking traffic, and what we've seen, people get pulled out of their cars and beat up and so on, anyone driving a car is well within their rights to plow through those protests. Plow through. And I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. I am not stopping for a mob for anything, especially if my daughter's in the car with me. But I'm not going to leave her an orphan or get injured. Why should I put up with that? I don't even care if I'm arrested. I'm going to plow through the protest. And the same goes for these rioters. If I were a business owner and these people came to my business with a Molotov cocktail, I'd shoot them before they threw the damn thing. Isn't that right? And
absolutely.
So I'm watching this video of this guy. The guy's in his face, and he's he continues to like push against the guy's hand. He's just like saying, don't back off, stay away. He says it repeatedly. The guy continues to push against that. And at one point his body stiffens, his fists form. And in that moment, the white guy goes punch, and the guy just falls down. One punch. Because the guy's a big white dude. He's like, but what they're counting on is we don't defend ourselves. That's what they're counting on. We're the good guys. We're not violent. We don't want to shoot first, but it's this whole cultural norm. When Star Wars came out, it was okay that Han Solo shot first. Now it's not, and they had to digitally alter the movie. That's where we're at. It's not okay to defend yourself. You know what's coming. You know you're about to be shot. You know you're about to get punched. If they're in your space and they're already assaulting you and you know what's coming, it's okay to fight back with violence, certainly with incivility. And I think Trump is our uncivil voice kind of coming out. And I think that a lot of people don't get that. They don't see that people don't care what he stands for or whatever. They only care that he punches, because we are at that point where we just don't think there's any more conversation. And I'm at that point. I don't think the left, I'm really encouraged. I love the walkaway movement and stuff like that. If you ever want to feel good, go to the Walkaway Facebook page and read the testimonies of these Democrats who've walked away and they realize they've been lied to. There's something really encouraging about seeing how many people retain a rational faculty so they can be aware. They can become aware of being manipulated and being lied to.
Well, I think sorry, go ahead, Sonny.
No, I mean, that's my point, is just, so I'm sort of partly encouraged by how many people have gravitated toward the right in the last, the Tim Pools of the world and the
those are the stars right now.
I'm encouraged.
We need
Joe Rogan even. Yeah.
We need some AOCs on our side, though. We really do. We need some young political leaders who are willing to come into the Republican Party and do a sit-in in Mitch McConnell's office.
That's right.
And take over the party.
We've been saying that on this podcast for the entire podcast. I mean, for a while, like ever since AOC did that, I've been saying we need that on our side. We need a Republican squad that transforms the GOP into a more serious fighting machine. Look how fast and easy that was done to Pelosi. It would only literally take 4 or 5 squad members, one really bold one with the right strategy, and Mitch McConnell would fold like a cheap suit.
That's partly what I thought we were getting in the Tea Party, and it really never completely materialized. It had some effect, though. But we need an ACLU for the conservatives. I think we need a legal organization that defends our rights and that is constantly serving lawsuits against corporations, media, universities on behalf of conservatives. I think we need to take a page from their book, use the system, and fuck up the works.
Do we even have time for that?
Well, I think it's part of the, I think if Trump wins, we've got to do all those things.
Yeah.
And if to the extent we have time, we need all those things. And no, do I really think that's going to work? Probably not. At this point, I certainly advocate a divorce. I have said this many, many times. I advocate the states breaking back up into sovereign nations and ending the compact, just ending the United States. I think it's no longer, but that's not probably going to happen in my lifetime, but some movement towards that. Maybe it's regional, where regions start to, we're probably going to end up, especially if Trump loses, we're probably going to end up with sanctuary cities on the right. We're going to have people kind of huddling together in red states, using red state politicians as sort of a bulwark against the federal government. And we may need sanctuary cities, where, like they did in Virginia, where they had Second Amendment sanctuary cities, where, when Virginia was threatening gun rights, they were saying no, and these cities were not going to enforce it. So you're going to have to work through nullification and.
But unlike Trump, who has allowed these Democrat cities and states to, this argument that he shouldn't have gone in and stopped the riots that people make, it would look bad, and then the media would take that and run with it. Maybe that's true, but I also think it emboldens the left somewhat to succeed the way that they have. And I don't know. The left isn't going to let Wyoming not follow the federal law. They're going to send in the general.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think they will. And Cota Villa makes that point too, that they will be much more willing to use the power of the state to go against anyone
Americans,
that dissents,
right.
the deplorables that dissent. And I think that's the point at which we see whether we're going to save ourselves or not, because if they escalate to that level of violence, you know, they're coming to literally try and, you know, take people's guns away type of a thing. You know, that's where the rubber meets the road. I think that's where you see a real civil war.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, that's actually how we're going to end the show. Any final thoughts on the debate or anything? That was kind of your final thought.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't have any final thoughts. I think we just have to realize what you're dealing with, and in terms of just understanding that the ideological intransigence of the left is derived from their ideology and from the fact that they gain moral fuel from their struggle, that this is making their lives meaningful because they're mostly useless idiots. And so they're never going to stop. I mean, this is what gives their life meaning. Not productive achievement, but nihilism and destruction, in a sense that they're rectifying some karmic injustice. And I think that's why it's religious, and that's why it's not going to end.
The final paragraph of this article in First Things about the Russian, the way it went down in Russia, I quote, I'm just going to read this. They warned, as Dostoevsky had in The Possessed, that to the extent that a society's educated class comes to resemble an intelligentsia in the Russian sense, that's basically what we're seeing with these young college-educated thugs. It is headed for what we now call totalitarianism, unless others muster the strength to resist it. One sometimes hears that the pendulum is bound to swing back, but how does one know there is a pendulum at all, rather than, let us say, a snowball accelerating downhill? And that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Like, how do you know you're at that point where that guy is about to punch you, you know, and where you have to punch back in order to not be punched in a fatal blow? And then this author goes on, it is unwise to comfort oneself with metaphors, the pendulum swing metaphor. When a party is willing to push its power as far as it can go, it will keep going until it meets sufficient opposition. In the French Revolution, terror was eventually stopped by Thermidor and then by Napoleon. But in Russia, Stalin proclaimed the intensification of the class struggle after the revolution, entailing an unending series of arrests, executions, and sentences to the Gulag. What meets no resistance does not stop. That is such a chilling paragraph to me. And actually the whole article just freaked me out.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to read it. It's too close to reality. I can't believe this is happening in America. All of us with kids. I mean, we're only middle-aged, so we still have a lot of life left too, but I mostly think about my daughter, you know. I don't know about you, but
I think about myself first, and then I'm certainly concerned. I don't know what kind of a future they're going to have. I mean, we've always had, if there's any comfort, we've had struggles like this in the past in the United States, and we've managed to overcome it. And I think there's enough people in this country on our side that are articulate, intelligent, that aren't going to let this happen.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean we don't have to work at it.
We might have to exile 100 million people to get there.
Yeah, or exile ourselves.
I want to bring the exile back. Okay, that's the Galt's Gulch fantasy right there.
Don't do that.
Exile ourselves to a
no, because then that side will start fighting. That side will start fighting each other. Whenever you have a group of people, they're going to fight over something. It's just whether they're fighting over really fundamental things or just, you could put the most like-minded people together. If you put 100,000 of them together, they're going to be fighting each other about something.
Right. But I think my point is we just keep leaving.
Don't leave.
And don't leave and there's nowhere to go. It's time to take a stand. Fight for your country. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the House of Sunny podcast. And we will talk to you next week. Hopefully will there be more cause for optimism? No?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. See you next week.
It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed.